Hey everybody. So I haven't got any questions yet, but um, there was a question that was asked by someone earlier directly to me, so not necessarily for the blog, but it was about names. And so I wanted to make a video about that and kind of just tell the story about, my name and why I came to choose what I did. But first, I wanted to make an announcement for anybody who sees this video that doesn't follow me on Tumblr that I just got the email a few minutes ago that let me know that my workshop for Trans Faith and Color, which is a conference that we have in Charlotte every year, it got accepted. So in a couple weeks, I'll be doing a workshop presentation on trans activism in college, which is really exciting. It's called Being the Out Trans Kid, Activism and Getting Involved in College or something like that. So I'm really stoked, and I was also awarded their Youth Award, which is really a huge honor, and I'm so very grateful, so I'm really excited about that. But back to the names. Most people, naming yourself isn't always the easiest thing to do because, you have to think about, well, I don't want to name myself Farouk or something. I mean, if you do, more power to you, but I've kind of always seen it as, this is something permanent probably that's going to stick with you, which is why I don't really think that you should ever take that lightly. But, I mean, we've all, I'm sure, known someone who, or, ourselves, gone with a temporary nickname or, a letter or an initial or a name that was just sort of a stand-in before we actually came to choose our names. And the situation that I was in was my entire life, I knew that my parents, if I had been born biologically male, would have named me Michael Anthony. So when I first came out, I thought, oh yeah, I'll just go by Michael Anthony, and I'll be Mike or Michael or whatever. And I tried that for like 2 months maybe, and it really didn't fit for me. And I mean, I was pretty fortunate to know right away that it didn't fit for me. And, I just started using, I dropped Michael and just used Anthony, which worked out pretty well because Michael was also my younger brother's middle name. Um, so, I started going by Anthony when I was 17 years old, and it really, it took a while to really feel like my name, but it was one of those that once I heard it, I just kind of, like, once I was able to, kind of switch over to using Anthony and using male pronouns in my own inner monologue, that I was able to sort of, really start to feel comfortable with it. I mean, and it's for everybody. Everybody has to go through something different, but for me, that's kind of how I tried on different names. And like I said, coming to a first name was pretty easy, but my middle name, it actually took a couple years. I didn't come up with my middle name until a couple years later, and it was literally, I had no idea what I was going to pick. I had no clue, and so I just picked a bunch of names that I really liked, family names, or, you know, Italian and Irish names, religious names, names that I just thought were cool, because, we all have names that we just think are cool. But, I kind of tried to put the names together, and what I imagined in my head, and this really worked for me, I don't know if it works for everybody, but I always imagined what it would sound like for one of my parents to yell that at me while I was getting into trouble, and so I kind of would put the names together, and I'd be like Anthony Eric or Anthony Alejandro or whatever, the different names that I picked for a middle name, and I ran a couple combinations, and finally I ended up going with James, which is my father's middle name, because I figured that's probably acceptable. I mean, he's my father, and it sounded pretty natural, Anthony James, and I posted on my Tumblr that it actually ended up helping me come up with the nickname AJ, which helped for when I first started onto testosterone. It was more a gender neutral thing that I could go by in class, and with new people that I was meeting, so they didn't necessarily hear a name that was one gender or the other, or I mean, not saying there are only two genders, but it's when people think about the binary, they think of just boy and girl, and those are the only names you can have. And my birth name is very, very feminine, and Anthony is obviously a pretty masculine name, so it would have kind of outed me one direction or the other, and I didn't really want that. So for me, it was really a combination of it sounded really natural, it was a family name, and it provided me kind of a comfortable midway point as far as as I was transitioning. So if I was passing better one day or not as well the next, it wouldn't have there wouldn't be anybody going, well, I mean, I'm kind of confused as to da 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 da, because normal society is not going to ask you what your preferred name is. In the trans community, we usually do, because we're awesome, really. But your average checkout store convenience, checkout girl, guy, whatever, isn't going to be like, so, I mean, you have a very masculine, I mean, you almost look like you have a beard, but you don't have an Adam's apple, or your hair is long, or whatever, so, what pronouns do I use? Usually you don't come up with that, so, yeah, so that was sort of my game plan, is to go with, a name that nobody would really say, oh, that's a girl's name or a guy's name either way, so that was mine. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that next time I will have questions from you guys to answer. So, have a great day, and I hope everyone is well.